Welcome back to Past, Present, and Politics. So, I had a whole line of topics that I was going to talk about today, but I changed most of it last minute because all I have been thinking about is the war going on with Iran. A lot of people are divided on it, especially among the right. But because I always start off my show talking about history, I wanted to first discuss a war that was very similar to this one, and I think we can learn from it, which is the Iraq War in 2003. During the Bush administration in 2003, the United States invaded Iraq, and their justification for it was based on two premises. The first one is that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. And the second one was that Saddam Hussein had some sort of connection to Al-Qaeda and 9/11. And the majority of Americans on both the left and the right believed this. And the reason why so many Americans were so accepting of the use of military force has a lot to do with 9/11. Because after 9/11, we were so terrified of these foreign terrorist groups that we didn't even think twice when we invaded Iraq on behalf of fighting terrorism. And the Bush administration had a lot of power to do this because right after 9/11, Congress received a draft for authorization to use force from the Bush administration. But the problem is that this bill was way too broad. Even though it was supposed to be authorization to punish the perpetrators of 9/11, it didn't even mention Al-Qaeda. But because everyone was so shocked by 9/11, there was so much social pressure, and so only one senator voted no on the bill. And not only did this allow for them to put common farmers from Afghanistan into concentration camps or prison camps, but prison camps where they tortured these farmers, and for Americans to be spied on with the Patriot Act, but it also allowed for the Bush administration to invade foreign countries on behalf of terrorism, on fighting terrorism. And by the end of the war in 2011, thousands of Iraqi citizens, as well as American soldiers, were killed. In the end, it resulted in over 300,000 casualties in total. And the entire time, there were no weapons of mass destruction, and Saddam Hussein had no connection to Al-Qaeda or 9/11. So why exactly did they lie about this, and why exactly did we go to war with Iraq in the first place? Usually when talking about these forever wars, the first thing that comes to my mind is the quote from George Orwell, which is, "The war is not meant to be won, it is meant to be continuous." And we get ourselves involved in these forever wars mostly because it's a way for politicians to gain power, and it's also a way for them to keep the cash flow. So the more scared we are, the more we are willing to give up our rights in exchange for safety, and we're more willing to give up our tax dollars. And we also get involved in these foreign wars, which people don't like to admit this, but we also get involved in these foreign wars in part because of foreign influence from things like lobbyist groups. The Israeli lobbyist group, AIPAC, admitted to pressuring the U.S. into going to war with Iraq. AIPAC's executive director, Howard Kaur, admitted this. And now AIPAC is trying to cover it up, and they're trying to say, no, we never did that, and they're taking down all of these articles off their website. But you can still find these articles in different archives. And so one of the articles that they took down, which was from 2002, it made claims that Saddam Hussein was connected to 9/11 and that Iraq was creating weapons of mass destruction. And they claimed that they had evidence of it. And this was in articles that people could read, Americans could read. And so AIPAC has tried to cover this up by taking all these articles off their website. But the funny thing is that they kind of expose themselves in a recent tweet. The tweet that AIPAC came out with says this: Israel prevented Iraq from having nuclear weapons. Israel prevented Syria from having nuclear weapons. Israel is preventing Iran from having nuclear weapons. The world is a safer place because Israel takes action and is willing to pay the price that no one else would. So pay attention closely to the first part. Israel prevented Iraq from having nuclear weapons. The reason why that's funny is because Israel never sent any troops to Iraq. It was the United States that did that. So they're practically admitting to dragging us into the war. They're admitting that Israel is the one that dragged us into the war with Iraq. The reason why I wanted to start off this episode by talking about Iraq is because now the U.S. is getting involved in Israel's war with Iran. Yesterday morning, the U.S. bombed Iran because they're days away from creating weapons of mass destruction, which it's the exact same thing all over again. The same justification with no proof, and it's a war for Israel again. And it's so frustrating because this is not what conservatives voted for Trump for him to do. This is not what we voted for him for. He promised us no new wars, and he ran on this America First idea, and here he is breaking all of these promises. And I'm not shocked, but I am extremely disappointed because, Trump is the one who a while back had said that we should have never been in Iraq. And so I just want to know what happened to that Trump. And it's so frustrating. A lot of conservatives are frustrated with this, especially people like Tucker Carlson, and a lot of videos of him from the interview that he did with Ted Cruz have been going viral. You can watch one of them.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay,
it's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the
I'm
one
not saying that.
who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
And so... Tucker Carlson is 100% right in this video because how are you going to bomb a country that you know nothing about? It's crazy. It's not crazy to ask of your senator to at least know something about the country that you're bombing. And it's ridiculous because he's like, oh, I don't need to know anything about the country to know that we should be going to war with them. What? You're a senator. Like, we should expect more of our senators. If you're gonna go to war with a country, you should know more about it. But there's so many people in Congress who are like that. They just are so trigger happy. They just want to go to war so bad. And a lot of real America First conservatives agree with Tucker Carlson on this point. And like Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, who is a lot more America First than I thought she was, she said, everyone is finding out who are real America First / MAGA and who were fake and just said it because it's popular. Unfortunately, the list of fakes are becoming quite long and expose themselves quickly. Anyone slobbering for the U.S. to become fully involved in the Israel-Iran war is not America First / MAGA. Wishing for murder of innocent people is disgusting. We are sick and tired of foreign wars, all of them. So I was very happy about this tweet. And there's so many conservatives who agree with her because it's obviously not America First to fight a war for Israel. And I mean, they just can't convince us anymore that it's not for Israel. They did convince us of that for the Iraq war, but history can repeat itself only so many times, especially because the Iraq war was over in 2011. Like, that was recently. So it's not like we've forgotten it. Like, we know that we're going to this war for Israel. And then, so there's all these people who agree with Tucker Carlson, and then there's the Babylon Bee who came out with this little, I don't know what you call it, satire thing. And it's where Tucker Carlson is asking Luke Skywalker, what is the population of the Death Star? Which, so stupid. But then when I looked at the comments, my faith in humanity was restored because a lot of people were like, this is ridiculous. Because it's not ridiculous to ask how many people live in Iran. Like, you should know that if you're going to bomb the country. But it's also crazy to compare a country, Iran, that has millions of innocent women and children to the Death Star. And the thing that I notice is that a lot of people, when they can't defend their position, they resort to Star Wars analogies. So it's kind of like a leftist tactic. A lot of just the Star Wars analogies when you don't have an argument. So that's what I got from that. But to end, I just wanted to remind you how important it is to think for yourself. Because you can't just support mainstream things, or the mainstream, even if it comes from people who you used to trust. A lot of people, I've seen so many people online who have been like, I trust Trump to make the right decision, or I support whatever Trump decides. But you shouldn't think that way about anyone, because Trump is not a prophet or a god. He's a human being who is capable of making mistakes, and he's capable of making really bad decisions too. It's clear that he hasn't kept his promises to keep us out of war, so I don't know why you would still continue to hold him up on this pedestal to idolize him. And we just can't idolize people like that. We have to learn to think for ourselves, and we have to learn to care about the truth, no matter what. Thank you for listening to this episode of Past, Present, and Politics.